The ego loves stories. A beginning, a middle, an end, a climax, good guys, bad guys, heroes, villains, sexual interest. I mean, the mind just loves it. We're constantly looking for that. So the madness is the mind that keeps giving us stories that make us suffer. And then as you say, well, isn't self-realization then selfish because, well, suffering will continue and for others? Well, and this is why self-realization is not the end. This is why it's not, oh God, grant me moksha, but let everybody else go to hell.
Sadhvi ji, of course, would have a lot of wisdom around all of these themes. So feel free, our beautiful Shakti Kumbh, to let's just get started with any question you have around ancestral or even how to heal collective trauma. Any questions? I know there were many earlier and we didn't have time to go through them.
When we talk about karma, and you said if we keep ourselves at a certain level of awareness,
Speak up.
it doesn't really, we don't really take on, if there's something, we don't attract maybe the bad because, not bad, I mean like the repercussions. I mean, we were talking about in the morning. And I was just wondering, where does that leave Sanchita, Prarabdha, and Agami karma? Does that, can we dissipate that also by the way we are, or those are already in the basket? They will affect us in any way.
Not able to relate to the reference that you gave because I don't remember saying something like that. So could you probably?
You said it depends on how we are, and if we are in tune, we are not going to attract those things, and that we
No,
are
no,
not.
no. That's not what I said. Let me answer the second part of your question and therefore probably also cover what you're mentioning here. So I spoke about the energy dynamics that constitutes what we consider as karma. That when we have an encounter with life, and that encounter generates a certain kind of response within us. And if that response has not been processed and discharged in a mindful manner, there is the possibility of a residue of that encounter that remains in the body. Okay, and then one process at a time, one encounter at a time, it contributes to our energy field and sets up a certain quality of energy. And this, therefore, allows only those events or experiences that are in resonance with this energy. Okay? And that is what is my understanding of how karma operates. That it is about the kind of energy that we have in us as an organism, and therefore the quality of the energy field that gets set up as a result of it. And this determines what has the ability to enter my space and what stays probably just outside, and I don't have access to it because my own energy field does not does not give me access, because it is not in resonance with who I am and how what the quality of my energy, and therefore something that is not in resonance with that does not have access to me, to my personal space, to my does not have access and enter my reality. Now that is the summary of what I spoke about this morning. This energy field that we talk about is not only from this lifetime, right? So we are life is a continuum, and we come and go out of the physicality of the body as we see it, but the energy field is the continuum. The quality of that field is the continuum. Hence, in whichever form, whichever space we prescribe, or uh, we say that it belongs to the prarabdha karma, or whatever else, samhita karma, whatever. Mm, At the end of the day, it's about who am I today and what is the quality of my energy and what therefore has access to me. Which is why I said in my process, the term fate plays a very important role, because under the what I call as fate, we there are so many experiences that reach me today which I am not aware, and I'm not able to connect the dots and identify what I might have done or what I might be holding as a result of which this particular experience has reached me. I don't have conscious awareness of it. So, all of those aspects of which I do not have a conscious awareness goes under those categories that you mentioned. And in my understanding, in my view, it all comes down to the quality of the energy field that I am. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying?
I get that totally. It's this thing. It's just that then, if my field is at such a high state, is that karma dissipated? Because they say that that can't. I mean, if I've killed somebody in a past life or I've done some stuff, it will always come back. It's the arrow which is kind of, I mean, that's the simile they give, which is in the quiver, ready to leave, already left, all those ones. Is it possible then to change it at anything, no matter what I do today, or it's going to affect me?
So, uh, my life experience is unfolding right in front of my eyes, on a day to day, moment to moment basis. And in every moment, at every day, uh, the whole of my life, I am engaging with life, and there are certain experiences that have access to me, and therefore they enter my space, good, bad, whatever we want to call it. And there are certain experiences that do not have access to me, and that is merely a reflection of the quality of the energy that I am holding in the current moment, right? So this is not like we seek guarantees that, okay, if this has not reached me, am I above it, am I below it? We don't know where we are in the sense, in that sense. And the work that we do with ourselves, the inner work that we do, the attention that we pay to every minute experience that we have, and the ability to stay with that experience, watch it, starts the process of dissolving and resolving some of these energies that we have. We don't know where we have brought them from. Some of it I can connect the dots and say, yes, like your example, yes, I killed that man all those years back, or I killed somebody all those years back. And maybe what I'm dealing with right now is a consequence of that. At the end of the day, it's just um, what's the word? Probably speculative, that we have connected dots and drawn a meaning to it. But the truth, as I see it, is life is the most honest feedback system. What is it that reaches the door? What is it that enters the door? What is the kind of experience that has access to me? Is the feedback of the energy that I'm holding, and the energy that is that's flowing out of me, and therefore bringing back experiences which are in resonance. If my energy is X, the anything that is 1x, 2x, 3x, 5x, any of that can have access to me, which is because it is in resonance with where I am. Yeah. And presence, in my understanding, presence, as much of presence as I can practice, as much as I can stay in the moment and be attentive to whatever has reached me, and what is the impact on me, and what is my, how am I processing it, how is it impacting me. If I can hold that presence and stay with that kind of attentiveness to whatever reaches me, the chances of it dissolving is high. And this is not with the objective of, there is past karma, now I'm supposed to fix it, or I'm supposed to resolve it. That kind of agenda may, I'm saying the word may, lead us into unconsciously, unwittingly manipulating the process of our life. In my view, because I'm saying oh, I might have done this, and this is the karmic effect. Now let me address it by doing X, Y, and Z. Again, outwardly. That is, at the end of the day, remember we spoke about the debilitating emotions that drains the life force energy that enters us. So if it is driven by fear, fear of the consequence, then that has its own, we are creating that in our field, and that has its own repercussions. So connecting to the divine, we spoke about the breath and how the breath indicates the presence of the divine. So connecting to the divine and being a witness to the process of the human self, and staying present to the processes of the human self is, in my view, the most effective way of dissolving all of those things that is operating through us.
So, with what you've just shared, and the moment to moment and process of fixing, and then also discussing healing and the acceptance of presence while also putting effort into healing and changing reality, I would love to hear from both of you, or just the thought of balancing those two that seem to be quite polarities in a way of accepting reality, but then also having hope or doing some type of action to also shift or heal or change reality, I guess.
The balance and the intersection between being present with that which is and using the power of our energy to heal, meaning to change that which is, right? That being present is itself a healing power. As we are present, we are healed on the deepest level. That's actually what the universe wants of us, is to be present. Right here, right now, with whatever is. If things were supposed to be different than they are, they would be different. But my presence with it in this moment does not preclude action. And that's really important to realize. The two are not mutually exclusive. Presence does not mean complacency. I can be very present with the reality of what is, while simultaneously holding a vision of the ideal that I am working toward. It's not real or ideal. It's both. See, if I neglect the present moment and I exist only in my vision of the ideal, then I'm not anchored in the here and now. I'm not present. And only in the present moment do I have access to the energy to heal. Only in the present moment do I have access to that experience of oneness with the divine. It's not that I can be in samadhi yesterday or tomorrow. Whatever we want on a deep spiritual level, it's only available right here, right now. Happiness, peace, divine connection, right here, right now. Now, if I have it in this moment, it's very likely I will bring it into the next moment. But it doesn't work by thinking about tomorrow when I have this, then I will be happy. Tomorrow when I can do that, then I will be one with God. It's got to be right here, right now. You can think about it, and this speaks also a little bit to what you were speaking about in terms of our past karmas. Let's say that at some point in your life, long-term karma, short-term karma, intermediate karma, immediate karma, whatever it is, at some point in your life, you planted an apple seed. Okay, we'll call that the karma. That's the action you've done. You can't escape it. There's going to be an apple tree in your life. Kuch bhi kare, there is going to be an apple tree because you have planted an apple seed. Or you have permitted someone else to plant an apple seed in the garden of your life. However, when that apple seed gives fruit, the initial reaction may be that you break out in hives. You're allergic to apples. You hate apples. Oh my God, I wanted oranges. Why am I stuck with an apple tree? This is horrible. I must have done something really bad in the past and I need oranges. How can I turn this apple tree into an orange tree? All that does is lead to frustration. You've got an apple tree. Now you can plant orange seeds so that tomorrow, metaphorically, next week, next month, next year, you now have an orange tree instead. But in the present moment, you've got an apple tree that's giving apples. What does healing mean in this moment? It doesn't mean that my apple tree becomes an orange tree. It means that I'm no longer allergic to apples. It means that I learn how to make apple pie, make applesauce, enjoy the apples. Or to call the local school children to bring their baskets to collect the apples from my tree. It's being present with that which is here, but using the power of my energy, my connection with the divine, my prayer, my visioning, all of this power that we have through that divine connection to change my experience of the present moment. So it's not changing my apple tree. It's not rewriting history and having me plant an orange seed instead. But it's me overcoming my allergy to apples. Me learning to enjoy, to accept, to find the sweetness in them. Learning to share them with others. And in that, I find healing. The apple tree no longer is the enemy. And simultaneously, I'm planting orange seeds so that new trees grow in my life next month. So it's both. I'm right here, right now, in the present. I haven't accepted it in a way of I'm complacent, but I've accepted it in the way that I am not denying the present moment. I'm right here with it. Here we are. And here's where we're going. Being able to hold the real and the ideal at the same time.
Hi, thank you both. I would like to repeat a question I made to Riha, which is pretty basic, but it's something that I would like to hear from you. I come from America, from South America, where we just believe in one God and no reincarnation. So I do resonate with reincarnation, but I have this questioning about the population growth and where the souls come from when the population is increasing. So I would like to hear from you.
There, in fact, is actually only one soul. The whole idea of souls is actually, in and of itself, not exactly correct. I won't go into all of the nuances of it because it's a really deep and complex subject, but an easy way to think about it Think about the ocean. Now imagine that the ocean were actually infinite, that we didn't have Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean and bodies of continents in between, but imagine we just had one infinite ocean. Now imagine a wave forms in the ocean. Now, the wave is a form, it's there. If you surf, you experience it. If you swim, you experience it. It's not an illusion, as in an optical illusion, or as in it's not real. And yet, the highest truth of that wave is ocean. Even as it has become wave, it has never stopped being ocean. If you took a spoonful or an eyedropper full of the water of the wave and you looked at it under a microscope, the scientist would say, ocean. For a moment, that ocean has formed a wave. Now, what we think about in terms of soul is we think about what we call Jivatma, which is my individual soul, the soul that is associated with this physical body in this life, and Paramatma, the supreme soul, which would be the equivalent of the ocean itself. Now, Jivatma is never separate from Paramatma. It's just an aspect of the supreme soul, the supreme reality, is manifesting itself here through this body to work out a particular karmic journey. Like a wave has formed due to some pull of the moon or some storm of the clouds, some atmospheric pressure. For whatever reason, there has been something that has caused that to form, in the same way that there's a karmic package that this Jivatma needs to work out. For that reason, it's taking these forms. Now, there could be an infinite number of waves in the ocean. It's not that the ocean needs to get bigger. And each wave, as it forms, it goes back into ocean. Remember, it's never stopped being ocean. It's infinite. And so it's not a matter of more souls being created. It's just a matter of more reflections. If you've got one sun and you put out a whole bunch of vessels, different sizes, different shapes, with different amounts of water in them, they're going to reflect the sunlight in different ways. You're going to get a different reflection in each vessel. Put out more vessels, you'll get new reflections. But there's still only one sun. But it can give you an infinite number of reflections based on the number of vessels you have. In the same way, we believe that each of us is the vessel that is reflecting that divine spirit. The soul in us is that reflection of the divine spirit. So the population is of bodies, more and more vessels, but still one infinite sun beaming down, or one infinite ocean. I mean, choose your metaphor that works, but that's a way to understand it. So it's not an increase of souls, it's an increase of bodies. One soul. Does that make sense? It's a very obviously deep topic that courses happen on. So
Yes,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense, but I understand that we are in a journey, like evolving as individual soul. So if I'm this body now in this life, but I'm gonna be dying and reincarnating and living another life is that the same soul that lives that other life?
Yes. Same soul. Same soul. Think about an ocean. The wave rises, that's your body, that's the current body. Then it recedes, means that you've dropped the body. Those same molecules of H2O now rise in another wave, new body. Then you drop that body. Same molecules of H2O now rise in another body. But ultimately, eventually, when we speak about moksha, or the ending of this cycle of samsara, this cycle of birth and death, it would be the equivalent of the molecules of H2O never again rising into a separate wave, but always just being as part of the ocean. And of course, it's not a perfect metaphor, but if you could imagine it like that, another way to think about it is water of the ocean evaporates. It gets carried by the clouds to different places. Some of it falls in the beautiful Himalayas. It comes down as these beautiful drops. We call it Ganga. People pray to it, worship it. Other drops fall in the sewage. People plug their nose as they walk by. Sweepers sweep it. But ultimately, at the core, it's all ocean. Just in a wrapped in a different form. And it's all returning to ocean. Every drop of water on the planet is moving back to the ocean. It's how gravity works. Every drop of water is moving toward the ocean. So it finally reaches the ocean. It's no longer sewage. It's no longer sewage over here, Ganga over there. It's now ocean again. And if you imagine that it never re-evaporated, and it never became another drop somewhere, and it just stayed as ocean, that would be the way of understanding, again, just in this metaphor, moksha, that completion of your cycles of birth and death. Until then, you're just going to keep evaporating, going, falling, taking new births, new forms of this journey to total awareness, total oneness, total enlightenment, realization, whatever word you use.
Thank you.
And don't get stuck with the metaphors. You know what I mean? They're just metaphors. We use them to understand, but you don't want to get completely stuck in them.
Satviji, a question for you as well. Firstly, thanks so much for your generosity in welcoming us here and making us feel at home. It's such a treat and very memorable. And my question is, so on the spiritual path, I generally feel like peaceful and serene, etc. But then I'll have an idea of how things are, and then that idea will pop, and I'll realize it was a complete madness and delusion. And in the past, I thought, oh, clearly this is what is, and then I'll see like it was so far from what is. So I guess my first question is like, how can I be so mad, like in the British sense, not American sense? And then the second question is like on this quest of self-realization, if unity is all there is, then why does it matter for me to realize that? Because it always existed, and the illusion of suffering will continue to exist even if I realize unity. So is the quest for self-realization actually like a selfish thing? It's just that I want to get rid of my own suffering? I don't know.
Beautiful. So this madness that you talk about, these ideas that you have of how things are, and then they pop, they explode. You realize that's not at all how things are. That which is mad is the mind. It's not that the world is mad. It's not that things are mad. It's that our minds that keep trying to create ideas of how things are based on the ego. That's the game of the mind. It's the game of the ego that's constantly trying to tell you a story. The ego loves stories. A beginning, a middle, an end, a climax, good guys, bad guys, heroes, villains, sexual interest. I mean, the mind just loves it. We're constantly looking for that. And the dilemma with that, what makes that so mad and maddening, is we get stuck in it. The ideas we have are ideas not just about the world, but it's always about my relationship to the world, my place in the world, who I am in the world. And so I move through the world in this illusion of this is who I am. I mean, on a personal level, I spent the first 25 years of my life thinking, okay, so here's who I am. I am, this girl and this is what I can do, and this is what I'm good at, and these are my relationships, and this is the trauma I've been through, and this is the addiction I'm struggling with, and the depression, and this is me at the top of the class, and this. It's what I thought I was. I am my body. I am what it looks like. I am my successes. I am my pain. I am my story. I am my drama. And you suffer. It's not just wrong. It's what leads to suffering. So the madness is the mind that keeps giving us stories that make us suffer. And then as you say, well, isn't self-realization then selfish because, suffering will continue and for others? Well, and this is why self-realization is not the end. This is why it's not, oh God, grant me moksha, but let everybody else go to hell. Right? It's not, I just want to be enlightened and everything else can fall apart. When you look at the life of the Buddha, after attaining enlightenment, what did he do? He didn't keep sitting under the tree, as blissful and beautiful as theoretically that might have been. He got up, he walked back into the town, and he started teaching. To use what he had to alleviate suffering. If you look at the lives of the sages and the saints and the gurus and the masters, why do they do what they do? To alleviate suffering of others. They're already there. But it doesn't mean, oh, I'm there, now I'm done. Yeah, that's selfish. God, grant me peace for myself, let everybody else, I've had a lot of people ask me some variety of, can you tell me how I can be in peace in the midst of everything that's happening in our world today? And my answer is always the same, which is, that's not the goal. The goal is not, how can you create a cave of your own peace while the world falls apart? The goal is, how can you find the peace such that you become a vehicle, a vessel, a channel, an instrument of healing for the world? See, if I don't find my own peace internally, if I don't end my own suffering internally, then I'm not actually able to be of any kind of real benefit to others, because then it becomes just about me. Pujya Swamiji always says the biggest problem in the world of humanitarian organizations is that it's all about egos and logos, right? And that if we actually could just overcome our attachment to egos and logos, we actually would be able to accomplish great things in the world for the world. That's why I do my work, to end my suffering, so I don't need it to be my ego, my logo, my name, my way. And I can actually be simply a vehicle of healing for the world, an instrument for the world. So, yes, suffering will exist after you attain realization. But you, as a realized being, will be a powerful instrument of ending that suffering for others.
Thank you. And I want to build on that. A question for Anuradha, therefore, that ancestral karma, if I'm part of a lineage, how can I become the instrument through whom that ancestral karma can be healed? You have very real life stories. You have worked with literally hundreds of people around the world. Would you share some real examples?
I can respond to this at levels. One is the whole practice of Shraddham as it happens in this part of the world, where on an annual basis we perform a ritual to honor and heal the dead. And as per that process, or as per that understanding, that perspective, the ancestors who have passed on come back seeking this form of healing, it is said. And the process of the ritual, the process of offering Shraddham, is responding to that calling from the ancestors, because they move on with several parts of their human journey not having been healed. They may not have had the opportunity to heal. And so during Shraddham, we remember them, we honor them, and by the offering of Shraddham, we are symbolically we are healing them. So that is the ritualistic part, and not like we discussed this morning. Not all of us are in touch with the essence of that ritual. We just perform the ritual because we are told that is required. Now, from the energy point of view, the way that I address this, when a being is wounded, when an ancestor has been wounded, there are parts of that wounding that do not get addressed in their own lifetime. And when I use the term wounding, what I refer to is the experience of those difficult emotions of fear, anger, guilt, and shame, as I mentioned earlier, and all their cousins, every one of them. So the psyche is left with these feelings, with these energies, and when the body moves on, the energy of that being that has moved on has merely lost the body, the physicality of his or her presence, but energy field remains the same, and those parts that are wounded are unable to move on with the rest of the energy field, because it is vibrating at a much lower, heavier frequency as compared to the rest of the individual. So when we heal these ancestors, because they are still their energies are still available to us in this dimension, in this on earth, let us say, as one of the progenies of these ancestors, I become a recipient, a suitable vehicle that can be picked up to hold the unhealed energy. And then this manifests in my own life as an issue in keeping with the quality of that energy. So when I come up seeking healing, especially in my experience through these processes, it is very interesting how the presenting condition. So someone, for example, I can give you some stories. One example that comes to my mind is when I was working in Beirut. And there was the son of a very rich banking family who came to me with the presenting condition that I'm unable to make money, or the money I make, I'm unable to keep it. So, although the rest of my family is very wealthy, we come from a banking family, me as an individual, I'm never able to make money or keep my money. So, this was the presenting condition. And I set up a constellation tracing where is this energy coming from, where this person is continuously experiencing loss. So we traced it back to 5 generations prior to him, where this family that originally belongs to Lebanon had migrated to South America, and they got into plantation, made their wealth, a big amount of wealth in that country, and one fine morning, 3 generations back probably, the family decided that they want to move back to Lebanon. So they just sold their entire plantation to the first buyer, just picked up the money and came back. Now, in these kind of processes, the wounding happens also because one, directly it belongs to the ancestor who did not have any consideration to all the workers on that plantation who were suddenly out of a job and left vulnerable to whatever the buyer decides to do with them. And when they came back with that money, this gentleman who came to me was actually holding the victim energy of those workers who were overnight deprived of their livelihood. So it doesn't have to be that particular ancestor whose energy I'm carrying. It is an entanglement that ancestor got into with this other group of people. And their wounding, therefore, has a repercussion on the family. So this family member ended up carrying the wounds of the victims. And in going back to that ancestor, the healing process involved acknowledging what that ancestor had missed doing in his lifetime. So I bring in a representative of those who were overnight without a job, and facilitated a healing between the ancestors, between the ancestor and the victims of the ancestor. As a result of which, this karmic baggage of having wronged somebody, this energy that reached this gentleman moved out of his system, because healing happened between the ancestor and the ancestor's entanglement. So this is one example. So in the present generation, all of us obviously are representatives of our family lineage. So we might be holding energies as a result of an energy entanglement between our ancestors and whoever they were engaging with. So when this gentleman came forward and asked for healing, those ancestors who were caught in that karmic equation with those workers found healing. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is, like you said, there are multiple stories. This is just one of them that stayed with me.
Since this is a Shakti Kumbha, anything you can speak to about the mother wound and the mother line that has been, um, abused and victimized through the patriarchy, and how that is showing up and how that can be healed by women of today?
Um, in my understanding and experience, when it comes to energies, it is gender neutral. The the nature of wounding that happens to a woman, more often than not, leaves the woman carrying energies of shame and guilt, and therefore it manifests. It's like I was saying, I have seen that shame and guilt are some of the most debilitating energies. It just sucks the life force energy out of the individual. And when it comes to, because I operate at the level of energies, Nilima, I have not really differentiated between the mother wound, as you call it, or any other form of wounding, because at the energetic level, we are all a combination of masculine, feminine, and when the wounding itself has happened, it may have been received by a woman, and therefore, more often than not, it might have left with that woman a residue of guilt or shame or abject fear of her identity. And that's the nature of the wounding that then gets transferred. Uh, Again, from a woman to a woman is most likely to happen. So mother wound, in that sense, probably flows down the female line of the family, the female gender, but there are exceptions. It could end up being held by a male member as well. I can share one more story. There was this lady who approached me for healing, saying that she is a victim of chronic guilt. Literally, she says, I walk into a room and the glass tips in their house, and I'm feeling like I start to think, oh, did I do something for that glass to fall? You know, that kind of chronic guilt. It was, how can I say this? So we opened up the constellation, traced it back to the ancestors, who in the family system, which woman may have been impacted. As expected, it ended up reaching a woman um, who was rejected by the husband, and the husband went ahead and took another wife, and there was no negotiation, there was no closure to that relationship. She was just thrown out of the house. Now, this is data that they already had about their great great grandmother or something. But interestingly, the moment the process started to come down closer to the present generation, there was such an energy of anguish and angst that started to kind of, boil over in all the representatives of the family. And I had to do a kind of a generic healing. I brought um, a goddess, fate, energy into the system. And I had 3 generations of men bow down to that and release, like completely all the time, saying, I return to fate what I have carried in me as anger. I return to fate what is present in me as whatever happened in that session. But the interesting part came later. So the session was complete, and we didn't have any information about the family itself. She didn't have any further information. So a lot of the times, without information, I just intuitively take the healing forward. So we had a break, and she came back from her lunch break so excited, and Usha, I need to talk to you. I have to talk to you. It turns out that there was an honor killing in the family just one generation before, where the girl was pinned down and fertilizer poured down her throat. And that was carried and passed on. And the guilt came from, although it was held in the woman, the deed itself was of the men of the family. But when it comes to guilt, somehow it finds its way to reach a woman, because women are more likely to feel it, call it out, speak about it, maybe. So it ended up that she was carrying the guilt of the men of the family for what they had done. So the information came after the healing happened. So, yeah. So when you come forward and seek any process of healing, you would be healing yourself at your own level, but most likely you're also doing it for a lot of ancestors who are seeking that, because they get trapped in this field of energy and they are not complete, and they're not able to experience a fuller release from this field of energy. So they do seek healing desperately. And in the Indian system, we offer it as Shraddham, where we are addressing that seeking. And in the contemporary ways, we do this kind of a process.
Wow, you've given us so much food for thought, Anuradha. So we are so glad we have sessions with you still to process. But to close, Sadhviji, any response on this? Any thoughts that have come for you on ancestral karma and our lives today?
So I'll have the joy of being together with you all again tomorrow, or we can certainly continue this. Just in closing, as she was speaking about that, I was thinking about the work that we do. We do a lot of work with women, both in the fields of what's called WASH, which is water, sanitation, and hygiene, as well as in women's empowerment, women's upliftment, schools and women's centers, and just a lot of charitable work in those fields. And what's always struck me as so interesting is the greatest evils that we see perpetuated against young girls. Things like female genital mutilation, things like early child marriage, things like girls, not knowing about menstruation before they start menstruating. And that trauma. I mean, if you could imagine never hearing about menstruation and suddenly one day starting to pour blood, what that trauma would be like. And yet that's the case for about 70% of girls in India and in so many other parts of the world. And what's so interesting to me about this as we've done the work is that the perpetrators of that are not actually so much the fathers and uncles and grandfathers as they are the mothers, the aunts, and the grandmothers. And it took me a while to really wrap my head and my heart around that, around why a woman who herself had been genitally mutilated, a woman who had been married off at such a young age, a woman who had been through that trauma, wouldn't she be the first advocate to say, not my daughter? And yet, what I realized as I thought more deeply about it and went really deeply into it is that in order for that woman to have lived her life without suffering the manifestations of PTSD, the manifestations of trauma, on some level, she had to tell herself it was okay. That which happened to her was okay. And in order to perpetuate that it was okayness, she vehemently needed to make sure it happened to her daughter. Because if she didn't make it happen to her daughter, what that would mean was it wasn't okay, which would mean that harm was done to her, which would mean that she had a level of suffering she needed to look at and examine, which she was not looking at. And it made me realize, and it's been something that I've been talking about to large groups of women all over the world, is our work as women needs to be to help other women heal. That it's not about so much the slogans and the campaigns and the, yes, there's a great role for that as well. And we're doing it, from sort of the world of the NGOs or the faith-based organizations to end child marriage, to bring about menstrual awareness, to end this trauma. And yet, what I think is so critical in this generational trauma lineage karma way is to help the mothers, grandmothers, aunts acknowledge and heal from what they experienced so that they can see it as not okay, but see themselves as okay. let go of the guilt and shame that they carry, because if what happened was okay, it means I deserved it. It means there's something about me that needed to be cut, something that was bad about me. It means that any level of angst or trauma or anger that I feel is a problem with me because what happened was okay. So we need to help them heal that guilt, that shame, so they can heal the trauma, so they can finally put their foot down and say, not my daughter. And that's something that all of us, I just gave 3 examples, but there's so much in that wound that we pass down to our daughters, knowingly, unknowingly. When we don't do our work as women and heal our own issues, whatever they may be. Guilt is a huge one, shame is a huge one, but there's so many other huge ones. When we don't do that work and heal ourselves, we pass it on to our daughters. We've received it from our mothers, from our grandmothers. And at some point we need to say, enough. And that's where our beautiful healing comes in.